Hi, I'm Mark Sumner, CEO and founder of Robertson Sumner. Welcome to the Channel Chat podcast, where we will share learnings, best practices and failures with some of the biggest names in the IT industry. Hello, I'm Mark Sumner, host of the Channel Chat podcast show, and today I have the man, the myth, the legend, Mike Norris, Group CEO of Computacenter in the virtual studio. How are you doing, Mike?
Good, really good, thank you.
Good. Thanks for eventually logging on. That wasn't my fault this time. I'm not going to take my fault that.
So, as I said to you, Mark, if IT was straightforward, I wouldn't have had a job for all these years.
I actually emailed Sue. I said, "Look, lucky Mike runs an IT company. Otherwise, we're never going to get in anywhere here." So she was making me laugh. But Mike, obviously, thanks for coming on back on. Obviously, I spoke to you at the beginning of the COVID crisis, as we knew it. Obviously, a couple of weeks into it. And obviously, I wanted to get you back on the show to see if some of the predictions you made were true. And my first sort of question was to you was, how hang out for Computacenter? Obviously, what's your sort of level of confidence as will the economic bounce back happen as you predicted?
Well, I think there's lots of different shapes of the curve, isn't there? I mean, people talk about V shapes, L shapes, W shapes. I think the Nike tick is the best shape. In terms of how the economy will recover. I think it will recover, but the way down is a lot sharper than the way up. Yeah. So if you have a Nike tick, it's probably the best way in which you can think about the economic recovery.
Yeah.
The length of time is difficult to predict, but we'll always compare year on year, and the general and how much are we affected by the general economy is another matter. Is IT GDP is not the global measure that dictates how much IT spend goes up. In fact, if anything, IT might be they're required to drive GDP. So, and in general, IT has had a good pandemic. I mean, I don't want to sound nobody wants this. People have died, people are ill, etc., etc. But in general, IT has had a good pandemic, not just in sales terms, but CIOs have had a good pandemic. Yeah. Most CIOs, our customers, are thought of more highly by their companies. You go around to most corporates and say, our IT department's done a good job through the pandemic. It's got us going. It's sorted us out. It's kept us working. And our IT's done a good job isn't a term you hear very often. Over the last 30 years. So in general, I think most CIOs, most of our customers have had a good pandemic. Yeah,
great. And when we spoke before, you mentioned that, approximately maybe 10% of CC staff are on furlough. And I'm interested in sort of seeing if that's gone up or down or what your situation is there. And also as well, what's your view generally about the furlough scheme and how that's going to pan out as it sort of starts depreciating over the next 2 or 3 months? Do you think people are going to just be mass redundancies in the market?
Well, firstly, we're about 5% on furlough. We were about 10%.
Oh, great. Okay.
Half our people back. The only people we have on furlough that I can think of, somebody might pick me up for the odd one, is people that are dedicated customer engineers that are dedicated for customer sites where the customer site is still closed. So we've got 250 people on Daimler sites around the world. A lot of those sites are still closed. Rolls-Royce, a lot of their sites are still. So particularly manufacturing plants that are still closed, we can't get the engineers back on site. And there's no point in coming back to work because they can't get back to work because they can't get to their place of work. So they're the only people of any consequence now. We made the decision in the UK that after April, while we still have people on furlough, we're not claiming furlough money from the government.
Wow.
Well, we felt that optically, we still pay people in the same way. In fact, we don't pay them 80%. We topped up to 90%. We thought 100% was wrong because we're asking some people to work and some people to stay at home. And we thought there needs to be a differentiator, a difference between the people that work and people that don't, but equally 80% didn't seem enough. So we topped 80%. But after the end of April, we made one claim on the government. After that, we decided that our markets have been more robust than we thought they were going to be, and we're making better money than we thought we were going to. So that prediction was wrong. So we haven't made any further claims, and we won't make any further claims. So as furlough unwinds to us, it doesn't make any difference. We're paying the staff ourselves anyway.
Yeah. What do you think about on the wider economy? Do you think, you know, the rest of the channel and this sort of furlough scheme, there'll be sort of mass redundancies coming?
Well, I think we talk about change through furlough, and I'm not convinced there's been mass change. I'm convinced that certain specific trends will continue in that direction. So, you know, for the last 10 years, the amount of touch services has been going down, and the amount of remote services has been going up. You support PCs remotely now rather than have an engineer come to your desk. That has just accelerated. So the number of on-site engineers that I require is certainly going down. We haven't recruited any of them for 5 or 6 years, but attrition and upskilling means that we can utilise all the engineers, so we don't have to lay any of them off. This acceleration of that declining, will that mean that I have to lay some engineers off? Don't think so, but it might get close. But we're talking relatively small numbers.
Right. Okay. And as a CEO of, you know, 15,500 staff, well-being and staff morale was a big topic throughout this period. You know, lots of people fill out their staff from home, and you know, have they got the right facilities, and have they got the right Wi-Fi, and all that sort of good stuff. And there was people sort of doing like the virtual pubs and the virtual quizzes, which, to be honest with you, Mike, I'm seeing a lot of it getting bored of that now. People are just sort of thinking, actually, it's almost like this forced fun we don't want to do. So I'm interested in what CC are sort of doing around. Are you sort of keen? Is there a keenness from your staff to get back to the office, or are they quite happy remote working? And do you think that will continue, and that might be likely moving forward for you guys?
But look, it varies, right? We've done some staff surveys. We only had in the UK 3% of staff, 3% say, I want to come back to the office full time, and I want to come back now.
Only 3%. Only 3%.
Yeah, but I want to come back full time and now.
Right. Okay.
Now that doesn't include people who, you know, I eventually want to come back to the office. I'd like to be there part time. You know, I think the people that I never want to come back to the office, that's probably still about 3%. More people are scared of travelling than they are being in the office. So it's the commute that they're worried about, not being in the office. So you can do all the PPE, signage, up and down stairs, separate desks you like. If the tube's full, that's what they're worried about. If you're in central London.
Yeah.
Now, you talk about other things. I think we've moved on from the pub quizzes and the drinks in the evening, and it is dull, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's super
so
dull.
Boring.
Yeah. A lot of park meetings, right? Meet me in the park. Team meetings in parks. Team meetings in gardens, right? There was a LinkedIn post today. One of my sector directors in the UK had her management team round to her garden for a social distancing drink. You know, we are, even though the weather's not been quite as brilliant for the last week, you know, it's still the summer. You can, you know, I went to a restaurant on Sunday. It's fine because you're eating outside. When we all move back inside, it's going to be a bit of an issue. So, you know, let's take advantage of this. You know, I had I had people meeting customers, right? I'm going to go and buy a curry from the local takeaway and come around and sit in your garden with you and eat you. We do it with customers. It's brilliant, right? So, yeah, I think it, in a way, it's not pub quizzes online, it's not drinks online, but it's innovative ways to socialise while you can. And I think they're doing a great job of that.
Yeah. So
moved on, but we're not back to where we were.
Yeah, because definitely the next channel chat, I'm flying out to La Manga
right.
That's definitely. We're definitely moving on from this virtual thing because I'm getting bored of that now. I actually want to meet you in person now. That'd be good.
I'm not there at the moment, right? I'm still in North London.
As we know, there was a huge spike in demand for sort of home office equipment. You know, laptops went up through March and April. And as we were sort of moving on from that, there was more demand about UC, collaboration tools, security, and all that sort of stuff. In your opinion now, July moving onwards, where do you see the demand from customers in terms of technology and what they're going to need?
Well, we're not quite finished yet. I think we're getting close to the edge of that. I think there'll be at the end of that, the tail of that in July, August. Right? I still think you've got a little bit more to come. Maybe the orders have got, but we're still doing rollouts. And there's been some shortages of product because of high demand, not because of manufacturing issues in China, but because of high demand, particularly around lower end laptops. The education market has been soaking up things worldwide, and the 220,000 that we did for Department of Education here in the UK, you take 220, eight jumbo jets full of laptops, and use that for one particular customer. By the way, the Japanese government have just done for underprivileged children in Japan 1 million laptops.
Oh my God!
Yeah, one order for 1 million laptops, that hurts worldwide supply. So there's a tail coming. We didn't do that one, I'm afraid. There's a tail still to come. I think that will start to slow down. So I think Q3 is going to be a bit better than we expected because the tail coming out of Q2. I think as we return to the office, I think there'll be a different requirement. I do think it will be a bit quiet towards the end of Q3, beginning of Q4.
Okay. You mentioned before your sales approach had changed, and i.e., everyone wants to go to their trusted advisor, and it's about looking after their customers and ring fencing those customers and being extra careful, etc., etc. And I mentioned to you before, sort of like, what was your approach about new business? And you basically said to me, look, it's about making sure our customers are completely requirements all fixed. Are you starting to sort of think about now as we come out of this pandemic, or hopefully come out of this pandemic or easing of lockdown, that you'll start looking at more new business opportunities? It won't be just clients.
Yeah, but you've got to remember, Mark, we're slightly different to a lot of channel partners. Across Europe, we got 4.5 billion sterling of revenue, and we do all of that with 250 customers. So we don't do, if I win in the UK 5 new customers this year, I'd be very happy. 10, I'd be ecstatic.
Really?
So we're not out doing mass new business, because to us, mass new business is 5 to 10 new customers, because they are substantial clients, and you don't pull them very easily. And the best customers we've got are the ones that are hardest to win, because the ones that are hardest to win are the loyal ones.
Yeah.
And you want the loyal ones.
Yeah.
Not loyalty for the sake of loyalty, but loyalty because they appreciate the service you give them, and over the fullness of time create a relationship which is sustainable beyond a few mistakes, and it's all about the long term. So yeah, we are different to a number of people in that. We've seen one really substantial new business win during lockdown. I mean, like really substantial. Like someone we've done 5 million quid worth of business in the second quarter with, that we didn't do anything with last year, not a bean. So that kind of shocked me. It was an individual moving from a CIO of one company to a CIO of another, walked in, didn't like to play, gives
fantastic.
And that's
yeah, absolutely.
That will never change.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We mentioned before about the vendors sort of supporting partners, and we talked about Cisco doing the extended rebate periods, or payment terms, which they did do, credits, which they did do in 2008. You mentioned before. Do you think
they did in 2008, and they left it in place for about 6 years?
Yeah,
I mean, it was ridiculous.
So,
and they've done it again. They've done extended credit again, but I don't think they'll leave it in place.
No. Are you seeing other sort of creative methods from the vendors to sort of help support partners?
No, I don't see creative methods outside of extended credit, and occasionally them trying to finance deals directly with the client, where we look at a customer where we go, I don't want to touch their credit. Right? I mean, they just look too risky. They're in a sector that looks too risky. Sometimes we've had a couple of situations where the vendor has said, we'll cover you. So almost guaranteeing the customer on our behalf, right? Because they want to do a deal. And we go, we're not going to stand, we don't think we're going to get paid. And they've stood up to that. It's been a handful, but that's great, right? Because it becomes a risk-free deal for us. So yeah, but it's only credit. It's only credit. That's the only place we've seen. And remember, money's free, right? I mean, your interest rates have never been lower. Your mortgage rates have never been lower. Money is free. So if you've got cash, then giving you extended credit is
no, absolutely.
Right? So I've got a lot of cash. You take advantage while you can. But euro deposit rates are negative.
Right.
So actually, if you've got euros, the more you put in the bank, the less money you lose. The more money you lose.
Yeah, that's not. We don't want that.
Negative interest. Paying negative on.
Yeah,
not good.
You mentioned before, and you gave me the analogy. It's almost like if you want an extension or your electricity is going to run out, it's keep the lights on time. So, from your customers, your 250 customers across your customer base, is it still keep the lights on time, or are they still thinking maybe actually I might do an extension now? The projects are coming up.
No. Look, I think I said earlier on that CIOs have had a good pandemic, and they have, right? And they think they have. Customers, the end user community, the business is saying our IT departments supported us well through this. They've done a good job. In general, I'm sure there's exceptions to that, but in general, that's the view. The thing is now, they have kept the lights on well. Can they take the business forward? Can they innovate? Can they deliver real value to the business? That's always more. I think that's always more difficult. But that's what they've got to do next. Now, while they're, if you like, their star is high in the sky, now's the time to do it. And the one thing that I think where this pandemic has helped them above just they did a good job and kept the lights on is adoption. Because one of the biggest, you can come up with all the innovative ideas you like from the IT department. If the users aren't going to adopt it, it's not worth anything. During the pandemic, we've had to adopt. Right? We've had to adopt. We have to adopt new technologies. So if you'd have introduced, Teams or Zoom to organisations, say you should be using this, what would have been the take-up? Yeah, bits and pieces. Everybody's going, we've got to use this. So adoption goes through the roof because needs must, right? And I think CIOs should be out there banging the drum to look. When you were forced to adopt, you did it, and look how good it worked out. Continue to have that same attitude towards adoption as we go back into the office, and things will be good. I think it's really critical. And in a way, we're reliant on our customers, the CIOs, being salesmen for our industry into business.
Making that adoption happen. Yeah, absolutely. So Computacenter operate in many worldwide geographies, and you have the first-hand privilege of other governments, how they're dealing with the crisis, both in an economic view and also as well in a human consequences view. In your opinion, who's done well, and also, is there a country you'd rather be based in right now?
Right. Well, from a pandemic point of view, I think the Germans have done pretty well. I mean, they are pretty good at this stuff, right? Now, obviously, we've done more testing, but they have a more spread geography. The towns are more independent, and so they can lock down easier in certain geographies. So they've got some advantages. The demographics of Germany give them some advantages. I think we've had a higher death rate. I trust our numbers probably better than anywhere else in the world, which I think most people would agree that certain countries aren't reporting fairly. It doesn't matter, but so no. Look, I think the UK government you're a hiding to nothing. I mean, I think Matt the guys fronted up. And nobody in the world would want to swap jobs with him today, would they? I mean, Jesus. I think he's done pretty well. Really tough gig, right? So I think I think they've been decent. I think they've not played too much party politics through it, and I think overall the government's done pretty well. Look, there's no other country in the world I'd rather live, right? Whether it be in a pandemic or in outside of pandemic. I live in London. There's no. The more I travel, the more cities I go to, the more I realise I love this one the best. I mean, I genuinely. It's the most cosmopolitan city in the world. It's the friendliest city in the world, of a major city. Its diversity is immense. Its culture is immense. Its green space is unrivaled. Yeah, I wouldn't want to live anywhere else in the world. Thanks very much. Not in a pandemic or outside of it. Do you know what? If I wanted to live anywhere else,
Manga. You get manga to 16.
Oh yeah, it's nice. Well, it's nice. It's nice for a couple of weeks and a nice holiday and a bit of golf and a bit of R&R in the winter time. But I don't want to live there.
Oh dear. Mike, we are living in uncertain times and challenging times. That's a multitude of reasons: COVID, job losses, recession, BLM, all these sort of issues. And they've highlighted some real issues for a society as a whole. How are Computacenter approaching those sort of issues and those challenges?
Yeah, I don't think it's easy on any organisation, and you have to. There's a delicate balance here, right? You don't want to be. You sort of almost have got to comment on everything. And one of the things with the Black Lives Matter campaign is to stay silent is to be unsupportive. I can kind of get that, but equally, when you're supporting everything, when you're trying to support everything, then you can look like, as I say, platitudinal. So you've got to have certain things that are slightly more your thing than another thing, right? You know, well, it's plastic in the oceans this week. It's Black Lives Matters next week. It's male-female diversity the week after. It's what are your big campaigns? Because you just can't do everything. So I think it's important Computacenter has a good overall view of the issues of the world, and then pick certain things.
Yeah, no, fair enough. And I think you're right. I think there are so many issues. They're changing week to week. It's hard to support all these issues. And if you do support all these issues, how can you be that sort of positive about them and actually say you're actually campaigning events, and when the next week you're doing something else? So no, I'm with you on that. I think it's very challenging.
So for example, I have targets just for my senior team on male-female diversity or female diversity at a certain level in the organisation. They are targeted to improve the female mix and financially incentive to do so, or disincentivized if they don't. What do I do? Throw all that out the window and say, actually, it should be ethnicity mix that matters, not female mix that matters. Or I can incentivize them on both. And in fact, I can incentivize them on, well, obviously I've got to incentivize them on profit, and then I incentivize them on, power reduction to help my greenhouse gas and incentivize them there. So I end up with about £2.50 on everything. Well, that doesn't work either, because you end up spreading it too thinly. You've got to pick some key measures. So we actually sat down and said last week, we have this incentive around female diversity, financial incentive for our senior team. Should we change that, given the recent campaigns, the Black Lives Matter campaigns? And we decided, no, we should still be supportive of the Black Lives Matter campaign, but let's stick with what we're doing for this year, and we evaluate.
I think that's right. I think you can get your head turned with every single campaign, which is changing. Let's be honest, it's changing month to month. Absolutely.
You're bouncing around like a thing.
You mentioned last time we spoke, your travel T&E budget was around £6 million, and obviously that had gone drastically down because of the pandemic. once we get back into the offices and customers want to see you again and people start flying again and all this sort of stuff and people want to go out for dinner and all that sort of stuff, will you be stricter around those budgets? And what I mean by that is if Joe Bloggs has got a meeting in London or he's got to fly off to Paris the next day, will you think actually we could do a virtual meeting or a video meeting instead? Will you be a bit stricter? No, you won't.
100% no. No, I will not. No, I will not. No, I will not. And I tell you why. By the way, do I expect to travel less? Yes. People self-police. They don't need me to tell them. I'm helping. No one. Sorry. Very few people travel for business because they want to. They do it because they have to. Right? Yeah. I remember the first flight I ever took through work. It was to Frankfurt. And I flew on BA and I flew to Frankfurt and back. And I was the bee's knees. I have arrived. You know, someone coming to me. I'm like, I'm really important. Now, I have to fly to Frankfurt once a quarter because I've got some big customers there and I go and see them. And, you know, my alarm clock goes off at 5:15 and I leave here about 5:20 and I get to Heathrow for 6 o'clock. And I fly to Frankfurt and I spend a day there. I usually spend a night, fly back the next day. I've stayed in a hotel which is okay. Look, I'm not going to stay in the slum, but I'd rather be at home. I come home after 2 days and I'm pretty shattered, right? I'm not as young as I used to be, right? I don't do that for pleasure. Given the choice, would I rather do a Zoom call or a Teams call with the customer? Yeah, of course I would. But if I have to see the customer, so you empower the people will make the decisions. Right? Everybody wants to sit nearer the front of the plane. We budget that, but whether you travel or not, people do not go, yeah, I'll fancy a trip at 5 o'clock in the morning. People don't do that for fun, right? So you can't police anybody who polices the travel budget. A bit daft, really, I think, because it should be self-policing. You have to trust your people to see whether a meeting can be virtual, is necessary to be physical. And if they think it is, you've got to trust them. You don't trust. Wait, by the way, if you're not trusted by your boss to decide whether a meeting's important,
fair enough. Fair enough. Mike, one question I wanted to throw in, because I've heard from a variety of sources that your sales kickoffs are legendary, right? So everyone tells me, right, the CC kickoff is absolutely fantastic. There's either it's Elton John themes or, The Greatest Showman and all this sort of stuff. Or someone told me that, something happened about Take That or whatever. Loads of themes and everyone absolutely loves it. Now, what will happen if you all can't get together and absolutely every CC employee I know absolutely loves it? How are you going to replicate that success? Because you can't do it virtually, surely. So what are you going to do?
If we can't do it, we can't do it. We'll wait and we'll do it when we can do it. It's as simple as that. And we'll, we might miss a year and we get back together again and we'll do it bigger and better. And yeah, look, I mean, if you can't do it, you can't do it. It's great fun. And it is legendary and it's slightly out of character as well because, nobody sort of expected me to do it when we first did it. I'll let you into a secret, actually. All dates back to Harvard. I went to Harvard in '93 and I did a number of case studies, particularly one on Southwest Airlines. And Southwest Airlines used to have a boss called Herb Keller who used to have his big conferences and used to come in, on a horse, on a ball, on a motorbike or some kind of thing, right? And very out of character for him. And I thought, I can do it. So we introduced when I came. So I went to Harvard, had this academic degree, and learned how to dress up at a sales conference. That's really what I learned from Harvard. Yeah, that's where the idea came from.
Everyone loves it. Everyone loved it. Every CC employee I speak to, Yeah, they say it's legendary, so they really enjoy it. So I was wondering what would happen if you, and you said if you have to miss it, you have to miss it, because I'm sure a virtual one would be, it just wouldn't work, would it? You know, that you can't get that. Also, as well, I've heard about the famous Fumes Jacket. So tell me about that. What have you got? Have you got to be, you know, people grinding and got to be pretty special to get one of those. Am I right?
Well, yeah. Look, it's $1 million of contribution to the company in a year, and it's important things. It's empirical, right? So if you make the number, you get it. So some years there might be 10 people, there might be 20 people get it. If you make the number, you get it. You're not competing against. It's not you against me, and one of us will win. We could both win. We could both lose. So that works. It's the only way you can get it. So it becomes aspirational.
Right, look. So look. There you go.
Well,
I've got one.
Well, somebody.
This makes me. This. I can now get into the CC kickoff with this bad boy. Right. I've got a Fumes Jacket now.
You can. Mark, let me tell you a couple of stories. It is legendary. I did give one to Phil Hume when he retired, but he did found the company. Never did $1 million of contribution. But it's been great stories, right? I've had a guy who left me through a lot of reasons. Spent 5 years away, came back, still works for me now. Very senior guy in Computacenter. On the day he left, he took his Fumes Jacket down the bottom of the garden and burnt it out of anger. But when he came back, he said, "I need another Fumes Jacket," so I made him buy one. But I did have a guy die just before he received it.
Really?
And his wife rang me up and asked for it. We don't rang me up and asked for it, and they buried it.
So it's pretty.
So and that's when that makes me shiver even saying it now, right? I was 31 years old. A guy called Andy Salter many years ago. So it gets with it, you know, people care, right? And you want people to care. And people like exclusivity. People like to be in a club. And once you've had it, once you've got it once, you can't get it. You know, that's it. You're in it. And you want it more when you haven't got it than when you've got it, right? But that's life. And we all like that. I started that a long time ago. It stuck. And the one thing about, I have seen people try to replicate our sales conferences. Don't get me wrong, we don't do everything well, Mark. There's plenty of things that Computacenter could be a lot better at, and I am far from the person who will say we are great at everything. We could be so much better than we are. So many things. But we do sales kickoffs well. And I see people try to replicate it. And they try and do everything in one go. And you don't build culture in a weekend conference. You build it over years and years and years, and you establish things, and you establish routines, and you establish ways of working, and respect for each other, and a team ethic, and it takes time. And people try and whiz it all up in one go, and it doesn't work, so they bin it the next year, and it has to be a consistent thread running through these things. Otherwise, you'll never.
Well, now I've got my
and it takes time.
Yeah. Now I've got my own Fumes Jacket. I'm just going to walk into the CC conference and just say, look, it was pretty easy. I didn't even have to do £1 million. It was pretty easy to get one of these. So I'll be insisting on coming to the kickoff next week. So I'll take it off now and keep that safe, because that's good.
Thing is, I will work that out. Everybody's names.
I'm not going to.
So if you look inside, it
I've got to give
the name of the person inside
tomorrow. So I said to him, I won't tell you who it is, but I said to him, I need to borrow it because I want to shock Mike that he said it's really hard to get a Fumes Jacket, and I've got it in one day. So I don't know if that makes me a legend of CC or not. I don't know, but I definitely, yeah. I'm not saying nothing now. Right. Right, let's talk sport for a minute. Now, I understand you're a bit of a handy golfer. Is that right? Yeah, and obviously you've got a place for La Manga. And you're a keen football fan. I think you follow Chelsea. Is it Southend as well?
Yeah, well, I'm brought up in Southend, so that has to be my home team.
Well, Chelsea are doing well. So, and I also know you're a huge fan of English rugby. You've got a long association with the PRA. If you had to have a magic wand and you could return a sporting event pre-COVID for the fans, what would it be and why? Yeah,
what a specific event? Look, well, I mean, the semi-final Euro '96 was probably the best atmosphere I've been in. You know, when Shearer scored the goal, obviously we lost on penalties in the end, which is never good. When Shearer scored that goal, I thought Wembley was going to collapse. I mean, I just, you know, when we went 1-0 up against Germany in the semi-final, I was like, I've never been quite as ecstatic at that. Seeing England beat New Zealand at Twickenham has been pretty good. No, look, there's been so many great things. You know, I've been lucky enough to be at some incredible events over the years. I love my sport on the telly as well, so I don't mind sitting at home and watching it because I think you get, I mean, the quality of TV now and the ability to get up close. I think sport, you know, I love a day at the cricket, but actually I love a day watching the cricket at home because you get to really see what's going on. I mean, you know, you side on at Lords, you don't get to see much, right? You have to, if you enjoy the beer and the whole picnic of it, and that's what it's about. No, the sport on telly is fantastic. I mean, the quality of
because now they're going to really
astonishing.
You know, the atmosphere makes live sport, isn't it? If you're actually at the event, it's the atmosphere, and if they can't replicate that, I do worry what's going to happen with it. So it'll be interesting to see how it pans out.
Well, I'd be very interested to see when we can get back to watching sport live again. I mean, you know, we did just get half our annual fee for our Wembley box bag. That was a nice sector.
So my last question, obviously all your employees and partners and customers are at home. They've been trying to sort of merge their work-life balance, blurring the two, to be honest with you. So how have you personally adapted to sort of like the challenges of routines and family and work in general, like blurring the lines?
Yeah, look, I think, well, my lines are always blurred, right? You know, I am very lucky that I don't get, you know, to me, it's a constant graze, right? Work is a graze, right? I don't have to segment my life. Some people do, and I'm just lucky like that. I can dip in and dip out and coexist and things like that. Working home's been good. I've had my 3 daughters here for a lot of the time. 2 of them don't live with me anymore. They're too old to do that, but they've moved back for chunks of time. We've been sitting down to dinner at 8 o'clock for almost 3 months in a row. And I'm lucky. I've got an incredibly well-equipped house. I've got a great gym. I've got a big garden. I can have a putting green. I've got a putting green in the garden, you know, etc. I've had a friend of my wife's staying with us as well. So we've had 7 people in the house. So it's been fine. Worked a lot. And you have to be careful. Are you working from home or are you living at work? And overly dominant from it because you can just sit here. You haven't got that fire break of getting on the train or. So I feel incredibly lucky, and you know I'm very conscious of a lot of people who are young in their career. Maybe they're working in London. It's not their home base. They're house sharing. They've got their own bedroom, but they're sharing living space, and they're working from home. Then it must be really tough. Or if they're on their own, a lot of people on their own. I've had some funny hours. You know, you talked about the Friday afternoon drinks call. Well, Friday afternoon in California at 5 o'clock is 1 o'clock in the morning for me. So I've done a couple of 1 o'clock in the mornings, you know, this is my 4th drinks of the day call.
Oh my God.
But it's great to do it. Just do it a couple of times. People appreciate it. So yeah, you can go on a bit, but this is brilliant, right? You know, I love work. I love keep doing it. I want to keep doing it. I want to keep doing it as long as I can. And whether I do it at home, whether I do it in the office, I still love people. So meeting people, working with people, interacting with people is not as good virtually. It's not a bad second choice.
Yeah, no, Mike. Yeah, Mike, you've been a fantastic desk. Thanks for closing the COVID channel chat series, and yeah, I'll catch up with you soon.
Pleasure. Stay well.
Thanks for joining us and listening to another episode of our Channel Chat podcast. If you've enjoyed what you've heard and are listening on iTunes, please could you give us a review and subscribe in order to get the newest episodes as soon as they're released. Otherwise, as always, we release an episode every Thursday at midday, so hopefully you can join us then.